So on today's Card Academy lesson, we're going to be going over a wonderful variation of the out to lunch principle as a multiple out. On a previous lesson, I shared with you guys this principle and just one of the concepts that you could use with this idea. Now this one is a little bit of an odd one. You wouldn't expect this, especially with this particular idea, where usually it's done as a switch or a change. Today, I'm making use of the out to lunch principle as a multiple out. So what this allows you to do is to have a binary and still be able to show the participant the correct prediction. So it's a nice way of making use of the actual mechanics of the out to lunch principle and use it for something that's different than what you might typically see. So let's show you exactly what I'm talking about and get you started with this wonderful concept. So what we have here is actually very interesting. We have the out to lunch principle, but we're going to make use of it as a multiple out. So we're actually going to be using the exact same thing from the actual previous lesson and show you how you can make use of this as a multiple out sequence as opposed to a change or switch of the card. So here we're actually taking advantage of the properties of the out to lunch principle. If you haven't noticed, what's happening is that this second half of the card is actually half of the card and it's camouflaged by the rubber band. So here's the participant's signature, and what you need for this is actually very simple. All we're going to do is we're going to prep the lowermost card to be the 4 of clubs, and here this is actually going to be blank. So for the sake of explanation, I'm going to turn this to a face down position, but it's going to be the exact same thing here. So this would also be blank. I'm just making use of the same gimmicks that I used in the previous lesson. So this would be blank as well. So the setup for the deck is also going to be very simple. We're going to take the 2 corresponding cards and place them on top and on bottom. Now it does help that these cards are marked so you know which is which, but you could keep track of it throughout the dealing procedure. And this is where you would begin. You have a blank business card stacked here, and you're going to tell the participant that you're going to make a prediction as to something that's going to take place later. For now, you want the participant to sign it, and they're going to sign it, of course, validating the fairness of the procedure here. And what you're going to do is that on this lowermost card, you're going to write the Queen of Hearts. Of course, remember, the lowermost card is the 4 of clubs. So you're going to write the Queen of Hearts. In this case, you would do this to yourself, Queen of Hearts. Again, I apologize for my middle school handwriting, but this will be placed face down without changing the actual order of the stack itself. So you're going to place that face down, and now you're going to false shuffle the deck, keeping those 2 cards on top. And here we're going to make use of this wonderful binary prediction that I first saw done in Max Maven's prediction trick. Now this is my take on it. This is my variation that still allows for this ambiguity of having 2 cards picked, but you could see that it's a little bit more fair than the original. So you're going to hand the deck to the participant, and you're going to have them deal cards on the table and stop whenever they want. Now you could tell them that they could shuffle the deck as they deal. Of course, it doesn't matter because we've dealt the 2 main cards on the table already. So they could shuffle the deck and it's not going to matter. So they stop wherever they want. Let's say they stop over here, and you're going to instruct them to pick this pile up and to deal it into 2 more piles. Now they could deal the cards in whatever way they want. They don't necessarily have to go back and forth, but just try to make sure that we have an even amount of cards in each pile. So the participant could do this. And here's where we come up to a couple different scenarios. So let's say the participant splits the last 2, which are, if you haven't realized it, the Queen of Hearts and the 4 of clubs. So this situation would happen if the participant is dealing the cards like this. They deal the cards into 2 piles and they split them at the end. So in this case, this is actually a very fair way of having the participant pick whichever pile they want. So at this point, the participant is actually going to be given a free choice as to whichever card they want from whichever pile they dealt. And there's a very fair way of doing it because they managed to deal exactly in this case. They shuffle the deck and they could pick whichever one they want. If they pick this one, it's going to be the 4 of clubs. Now you could have them change their mind. It doesn't matter because you're going to be covered for both. But let's say they go with this one. Now here, if they're adamant about the 4 of clubs and they don't want to change their mind, I could then instruct them to look at the card that it would have been. In this case, it would have been the Queen of Hearts. And as they're turning that over and showing what the card could have been had they gone with this one, all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this pile and I'm going to take my prediction out, but I'm going to take it to myself just like this as I place it on the table. So this is done nonchalantly. I'm just taking it and placing it on a table as the participant is then drawn to this card, which they now see is the 4 of clubs. Now this could be ditched in your pocket. It doesn't matter because you can now show that the 4 of clubs is exactly the right prediction with the spectator signature still on the card. So it validates the actual prediction from before, and it's great because they see their signature and they know you didn't switch the card because there's no way of switching the card that they signed. Oh boy. Now let's say they go with the Queen of Hearts. Let's say they do change their mind and they go with the Queen of Hearts. Now for this particular scenario, we will not be removing the card. We'll just be leaving it in the pile. So once we realize that the participant is not going to change their mind, we could have them see the card that it would have been, and they could fairly see that all the cards would have been different. And of course, we could guide them and show them that the prediction was 100% bang on the Queen of Hearts. So this is the best scenario, of course, because the participant can pick from whichever pile and it doesn't matter. So let's say the participant doesn't split the piles. So in this case, we have the 4 of clubs and the Queen of Hearts. The participant deals the cards like this, and let's say they deal the cards like this. So now we have both cards in the same pile. Well, now it's just a matter of having the participant pick up the cards in a certain way. So you're going to have them freely pick up whichever pile they want. Now, if they pick up this pile, golden, you're great. You could have them turn over the top card, and you could even tell them that they could change their mind between this card and this card. Of course, it doesn't matter because both of them are going to be your force cards and you're going to be covered. Now, if the participant happens to pick up this pile, you go, great, now pick up this pile and place it on top. So it's not going to matter because you're always going to end up with the 4 of clubs and the Queen of Hearts on top. And at this point, you could give the participant the option. Now, this is the card that they picked freely. You could have them change their mind between this one or this one. And of course, you could play up on the fact that they almost went for a card. And really, it doesn't matter because you're going to be covered for both predictions using the out to lunch principle. So this is just my take on Max Maven's classic prediction trick where the binary is covered by the out to lunch. And I do like the ambiguity of this particular principle because before you would have the cards dealt like this back and forth and they didn't have an option as to how they could deal the cards. What I found is that it doesn't matter. They could deal the cards however it is they want, and really it's not going to matter because you're going to be covered for both situations regardless. Now, what this lesson is mostly about is to look at the principles that you already know and see if you could see them from different lights. This is the out to lunch principle, and typically you see it done as a change or a switch. Here, it's being used as a multiple out, which is an sort of offbeat way of using the actual mechanics of the gimmick itself so that you're covered for 2 potential outs. And this is not just with the out to lunch principle. This is pretty much with anything in Magic. You could always see something from a different way and find something new. But that's the lesson. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll be sharing other offbeat ways of using the out to lunch principle in future lessons, but I hope you guys enjoyed this one for the time being. As always, I hope to see you on the next lesson.